Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Make Love Easy podcast, where we help men thrive in love, sex, dating, relating, intimacy, all the things. Tonight, we're going to talk about the connection between this and this, awakening your identity to God's perception of your soul and experience there, with direct experience, and how that translates to sexual health and vitality. I have with me the illustrious, the illuminated, the infinitely entertaining and super fun young prodigy, um, Eric. What's up, man? I know you got an intro for you too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to be here with you. We've been jamming the past few weeks. I love our chemistry. I love our conversations. And I'm hoping that we can have a conversation that gets to help people maybe tap deeper into their sexual energy. A little bit about me. I became super just devoted to the laws of the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, at a young age. And I learned when I was about 22, maybe a little bit younger, that the energy we give out comes back to us, period. And I decided, let's put this to the test in a corporate setting. So I was in some super competitive sales programs outside of college. And the long story short is I found amazing corporate success using the laws of the universe that would otherwise be deemed woo woo or spiritual. But I found that they work no matter where you are, no matter where you go, these laws are always in action. And so, through the reflections of corporate successes that I have seen, big sales successes, my devotion to these laws of the universe, or really we can call it God, that's what I call it, has just grown and grown. And so, currently, I'm a devoted student of the Course in Miracles, which I use to help just allow me to see clearly, allow me to choose love over fear as often as possible. And that's been the most potent spiritual practice. And I've had some cool experiences with my sexual energy and playing with that. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today, Lewis.
We are
Um,
indeed. I'm surprised that you're older than 22, though I'm sure I've asked you this before. What, like 28?
I'm 26.
26. All right, man. Out of the mouths of babes. I'm just kidding. No, I love seeing somebody super young and super dedicated, committed, and aligned to the divine. And I'm a big student of A Course in Miracles myself. But when I heard you say that any time during the day you'd be, and I'm stealing your thunder a little bit, but just so people can know why we're here. You would experience sexual desire for a woman. Like you just see a physical feature on her body and be like, oh, and then later on at night, you'd have a dream where that desire kind of Freudian style completely
Yeah.
resolved itself, like karmically, like energetically, to where you weren't haunted, tortured, taunted, or drawn out of yourself by it. And I was like, what? And that happens with most of your sexual desires. As they arise, they immediately enter a stream of being transmuted, recycled, transformed, and you get liberated from them. It sounds like it's a function of the larger mind training and the depth of that. But I'm curious how did you come to do this and why and what does it do for you?
Yeah. So I came out of the womb with a lot of desire for the opposite sex, period. A lot of us do. We all do. We're all sexual beings. But I really noticed, especially in college, that I was more or less being possessed by my sexual desire. It was like the wandering eyes couldn't stop. I was spending long hours in the gym, working out, getting this body, but really doing it to try to gratify myself and, trying to express my sexual energy. And what I started to notice is that whenever I would sort of succumb to lust or these animal desires, I just wouldn't feel good. I just wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't feel as good as when I would allow myself to calm down and use that energy to, let's say, play guitar or go on a walk or do something else. And it didn't happen immediately. It was about 4 years of this painful loop that every time, let's say, I'd use pornography, do my thing, ejaculate, I'd be in this sort of like guilt and like, wait a minute, that didn't actually feel good. That's not actually how I wanted to use that energy. But the conditioning, and I'm just a guy, and it's better than trying to get out there and go to the bars. And I would stay in this loop for weeks and months and years. And so there was one moment where I had experienced sex with another woman, almost like my last days of college, and I was so unfulfilled that I laughed. I just laughed and I was like, you know what? Like, that's that. Like, I'm actually so good. I've been hearing these spiritual teachers talk about semen retention, and I've experimented in the past, and I usually feel better when I do that. I'm just going to go for it. I'm really just going to go for it. That feels resonant. And it still took some smoothing out, but there came a point in my time. I was about 23 to 24 when I was just committed. I was like, you know what? My energy is sealed because I started to become conscious that when there was attractive woman around or it was on the internet, you're scrolling, my energy would be sucked into it. And I simply didn't like how that felt. It would pull me in, and then I felt like this loss of peace.
Mhm.
So I decided to seal the energy. And I was also learning about these things. Yeah, go ahead, Lois. If you have
What does
anything.
that mean? And why would anyone do that? Seal the energy. And how do you do that? What is, yeah.
Yeah, when I think of sealing the energy, I just mean not spending it. It's like a currency. My favorite sort of definition of this is sexual energy is the currency Shakti uses to purchase spiritual evolution. In other words, if you want to, yeah, I learned that this is a great teacher of mine used that. Sexual energy is the currency Shakti uses to purchase spiritual evolution. In other words, the more sexual energy you have, the more you can actually use that for your spiritual evolution. Or, in other words, raise your frequency. Or, in other words, expand your levels of consciousness. And if anyone's ever experienced expanding their awareness or consciousness, it's about the best damn feeling you can possibly have access to. That expansion, it is love. It's how can you want to trade that for anything? And once you've really tasted that expansion of your consciousness, of your awareness, of your love, you couldn't want anything else. You couldn't. It's taste and seeing. You can't untaste that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. And, for somebody to actually experience that, I can understand why on the other side of it. And I was thinking about it this morning a little bit. Um, why someone would give the pleasures of the flesh or the experiences of life away in exchange for a continued being plugged in or channeling or feeling the flow of the divine source energy. And so we had an interesting time with Christian scripture last time, but I'm going to mention some stuff because it finally makes sense from within a certain context, right? So Christ says in Matthew 5, but I say to you that he who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And what that means is, I think, is in connection with Matthew 6, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if your eye be evil, the whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is the darkness? So, like, there's a darkening of the soul by cluttering the field through hooking into and needing and craving for sensory experiences through what the Christians would call lust of the flesh. And I make these Christian references because the Bible's not far from A Course in Miracles. It's kind of like in the backdrop. A Course in Miracles just kind of interprets it in a certain way and implies that it is an authoritative account of things that actually happened or are valuable for us to dig into. Not that you have to believe in the Bible to believe in the Course in Miracles, but structurally, logically, it seems to be pointing that direction. So, has this been your experience? Is that your sort of third eye and your body have become full of more light as you've sealed the energy and committed to using it in a particular way?
The changes have been so magnificent and have led to expansion so great that I can honestly say I do not leak that energy very much or succumb to lust almost at all. When I was young, my mind used to be plagued by thoughts of sex. And now it's as simple as like the radio channel has changed. It's like I'm plagued by this desire to forgive. It's like it's small. Oh, that's been undone and replaced with a thought system that's really serving my expansion. And I do want to touch that this was not some overnight thing, right? Because I shared about this
Yeah.
phenomenon I experienced, which is that when I made the decision to, again, I use the word seal my energy, but to not spend it, right? We have these chakras, these different energy centers. And I know that the sexual energy can express at each one of these energy centers. That's at least what it felt like. When I was committed to raising it to my heart, I said, above all else, I want an open heart. I want to experience universal love and oneness all the time. Very quickly, what started to happen, and I meant it, This isn't some like half-ass, like, yeah, I'm gonna seal my. It was like, no, no, no. Like above all else, I want to see. When I'm horny, I want to be that horny for God. I want to be that horny for love. Please. Like I am in my full devotion that I mean this. And what happened very quickly is when I went to sleep, I had a lot of kinks, a lot of desires, a whole lot of things hiding in those lower centers. I would experience my fantasies, my sexual fantasies in a dream state. And I would experience them so vividly. It was so real. And I would literally orgasm and ejaculate so fully, literally the most earth shattering orgasms I've ever felt. And I would wake up from the dream free from the desire.
Let me ask you this. Was it a wet dream or was it entirely like an astral body level orgasm sensation circuit that worked through and then you woke up and your actual embodiment, you still had the energy or what was it exactly?
You know, that's a great question. My intuition was that, like, yes, on the astral level is where this like purification was taking place. I'm not an expert. I have never really successfully astral projected. I've played around a little bit,
Well, you have
and
an astral body and it's doing things, and that's where we go when we sleep. Astral travel is another way
exactly.
of that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I believe that that's where it was taking place. But my physical body would absolutely ejaculate, and I'd wake up and do a quick change, go back to bed, all good. And this was really interesting because, like I said, there was a whole lot of desires, a whole lot of energies that were pulling me down, a whole lot of lust. I mean, no shortage, as much, if not more, than any of your average dudes, like plagued, right, by this sexual desire. But dream by dream, it started to free up a little bit. And it was like, again, you name the desire, I had it, I experienced it fully, what felt like in the astral world or wherever in the dream state. I would experience it so vividly that it might as well have been on Earth, or even more real than Earth. If the orgasm would happen, the release would take place, and I would be free from it. And this was so satisfying. This opening that started to happen, where one by one these desires started to fall away. And this would happen sometimes once, two times, three times a week, sometimes twice in the night. And over the course of a year, year and a half, almost 2 years, and over 100, triple digit wet dreams later, uh, the process sort of took place where Kundalini was able to finally awaken up all the energy centers. In other words, it was able to make it out of kind of that sacral solar plexus, like these lower centers, and actually hit my heart, my throat, my third eye. And that has been the most graceful experience of my life, and one that I'm enormously grateful for and in reverence to, and deeply, deeply humbled to have experienced the grace of that through surrendering these lower desires. And the long story short is everyone here is orgasmed. And when you orgasm, you usually feel it kind of in your root or your sacral, like these lower centers. It's kind of like this animalistic, satisfying, great, orgasm. When these blocks are released, every chakra has the capacity to orgasm.
Hmm.
This was my direct experience. And like this doesn't happen like every day or every week. It's a rare moment, but it happened enough for me to never lose the conviction that this is possible. The sexual energy can hit every chakra, and you can orgasm in your heart and experience so much love. People might describe it like MDMA, who knows? But to me, it's like that level of fulfillment is so beautiful, so gorgeous. You can't go back if you wanted to.
Hmm.
And when you do have a sexual relationship with another that has their heart equally opened, the level of intimacy is so much more profound than anything you could have ever experienced. It's described as one being having sex through two bodies. It's this level of union and merging that's so inspiring and so freeing that it actually satiates you. And that's the difference. When's the last time you watched porn, you had your release, and you're like, cool, I did it. I'm done. I don't have to do that. I got what I needed. No, you're on the hamster wheel. It's like the next day it comes back, or you're feeling stressed and it kind of comes back again. It doesn't satiate. But the green ray, the heart opening, union, sexual experiences, or even just experiencing your sexual energy, applied in a creative way, like writing music, playing a song, who knows, like any way that is inspiring to you, actually fulfills and satiates and creates.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's a mic drop moment there at the end. I really appreciate it. Man, wild, crazy, and cool. So there's so much that I resonate with, and I now know what we're going to call this. How can your wet dreams bring you closer to God?
I love that. I love that.
We'll see how that goes in the algorithm. Um, so, I get it. I actually am starting to get it because part of the impulse behind creating this conversation was I still experience, and I haven't had sex in some time with a woman in person. I had cyber sex last year, late last year, and it was okay. But I still have moments where I'm like, oh, that would be great to share this energy and connection in nourishing, nurturing intimacy with a woman. And I know you feel that too, and that you have a different relationship to that and around that, given your embodiment. And you got to know, I've had so many people around me experience so much cool shit, like orgasms where, have you heard of extended sexual orgasm?
I've heard of it.
ESO, yeah, it's a red book, yellow letters on the cover. A friend of mine gave it to me um, after we were having a conversation in 2012. I'll never forget my friend Randall. And we're in the middle of the conversation, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still having an orgasm right now." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, the muscles down there are contracting and stuff." And it's because he had trained himself. So that was a purely physiological thing. That was not spiritual. And then I hear from one of my friends who's had orgasms with trees, or he's on a plane
Whoa.
next to a really beautiful woman, and he breathes her in like a flower. He doesn't even need to touch her. There doesn't need to be an interaction, and he just gets so turned on by it. And I'm like, all right. So part of this I understand is focus of attention. Part of this is cleanliness of energetic field. Like there's a image that a friend of mine, one of my spiritual teacher, puts in his trainings of like you ever look up at like power lines and sometimes they get layered around each other and then sometimes there's like dozens all in one place and they're all mixed together. That's how most people are walking around with their field. They have all these tendrils, sometimes straight up codependently tying their capacity to receive and embody and align and energize and have energy flow through them to the outside. And so over the past several years, this was going somewhere, by the way. This is landing me next to you. Uh, over the past several years, as I've cultivated these deeper states of bliss, love, peace, and joy through a similar system, it's not quite a Course of Miracles exactly, but it's very inflected by that at Earthwaking University. And then also a Course of Love, which I managed to finish reading a Course of Love because it was somewhat less labyrinthine. Now my mind was very entertained by it reminded me a lot of the German philosopher Hegel. Like you'd read a paragraph and you'd be like, what the heck just happened? I don't understand. I need to go back and read that 10 more times. And then that was in the middle of COVID when I started that process and I just got kind of drug out by it. I'm interested down the line to hear how ACIM factored into the milieu, the environment, or to what degree it played any part at all for this process to happen for you. But anyway, as I've experienced more bliss states, I've actually raised my standards energetically and emotionally for the kinds of sex, the kinds of experiences and orgasms, the kinds of women that I want to engage with. And frankly, the past three relationships, I would always do qigong and like remedial, like restorative to Jing, like to the sacred energy of sexuality and chi in the body afterwards because I could feel the diminishing. Because I'll go weeks or months without an orgasm, without an ejaculation. And I can feel the potency of my capacity for intuitive guidance, emotional sensitivity, manifestation, creative expression. And so any drop in that, it's like, well, I want that plateau back. And so, all of which to say, I was walking around with this sensibility of like cleanliness, sexually, energetically, hygiene oriented, like keep the field clean and
Yeah.
fix it and then release if I picked up anything from my partner in relationships. I wasn't choosing the best partners. Um, but you can't go back. You're right. You can't go back once you've taken on a certain attentiveness to and an awareness of and an experience like an embodiment of these bliss or at least even feel good states. I'm not sure that I've gotten quite bliss, but I feel so good most of the time, generally speaking, in my own skin that like I don't and this is not to say that I haven't like in the past 6 months there was a point December and then early in quarter 1 when I was still using porn and I could feel oh man that the way that I got rid of whatever I picked up from that was straight up Christian exorcistic deliverance rituals and they worked. They worked. If you read enough personal development books about deliverance ministers casting out demons and causing miracles in the name of Jesus, you start thinking, maybe there's something to this guy. And maybe there's something to this practice. So I got ChatGPT to write me some rituals. And I used them with other people in my life too. And they were like yawning and releasing. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm an exorcist now. Um, because I could feel that I was taking something on. And I don't know if you ever experienced this back in the day, like college, but you'd use porn and then suddenly there's a compulsive, as if a different will is activated in your psyche, and it's not even you anymore. And this is like phenomenologically, this is how you experience it, how it occurs or at least how I was. And then I'd find myself, this is as recent as like 2018, 2019. I'd use porn and then I'd be like, all right, I'm not going to use for the rest of the day. I'm going to go take my Brazil nuts, my almonds, my D3. I'm going to take my maca to restore my jing.
Trying to clean it out. Yeah.
And then what's that?
Trying to clean it up. Yeah.
Try to clean it up or at least raise myself back
Yeah.
up in terms of sexual energy. But then I'd still feel compelled and I'd be like, all I have to do is not use porn again. But then I'd feel like drawn back compulsively. And then I would sort of still feel that guilt and that shame and that frustration. And it was less present 6 or even 3 months ago because I have cultivated deeper clarity. But like, I get it. You can only know by experiencing it. And at that point, because we want to build an on-ramp for men, right, who hear you and they're like, well, that sounds fun. Let's do that. And the
Totally.
on-ramp starts with like this awareness experientially that you can't go back once you've tasted. And then all these questions of what is a distortion of sexual energy and what does it mean to leak sexual energy, they take on a new meaning. They're not just quaint, cute,
Right.
new agey woo-woo metaphors. They're like a visceral distinguishing of what you're experiencing. So anyway, I see you've been wanting to play back. What are you hearing here? What do you want to say about all that?
No, well, for starters, the when I was in college and I would use pornography, it was literally like a tentacle attached to like my sacral chakra that would pull me in.
You
And then
could
there
feel it.
was this voice, not my own, but in the psyche that was like, well, you already did it like yesterday or today. Like, just, why not? It's kind of like you already hate yourself. Hating yourself a little bit more is not going to be all that. And then
It's at least
you're gonna
logical.
quit, and then in 3 days you're gonna feel fine until you'll bounce back. So like, fuck it, like enjoy. And it was ridiculous. And it was like once I had started meditating and realized I don't have to bargain with this voice because the same voice that's telling me, hey, you should watch this porn is the same voice that's going to guilt me for it afterwards. I'm like,
Yep.
how about no? How about I can literally observe this and not? But it took me years and years to get to that point because I didn't have the awareness or the meditation experience to realize I'm not my thoughts. And until you get to that point that you're not your thoughts, you're witnessing your thoughts. If you believe you're your thoughts, it's going to be a rocky road because once your antenna's tuned to lust, I mean, you just get hit nonstop with everywhere you go. Everything is sexualized, in a sense. So I feel you. I understand that, and I'm happy. It's been years for me since I've indulged in any sort of viewing of pleasure, any sort of lust on the internet.
But you have, it sounds like maybe, and you can tell me if or not, had sex with women, yeah?
Oh
Or
yes, certainly.
and it was great.
So I'll tell you what, of
It
all
was
the sex,
not. Okay.
it's not that it's not,
Yeah.
you know what, it's great in
Probably
society.
their calibration to where you're at, right? I mean, as well.
I would say 95% of the sex I had in my life was not great.
I
If
would
I,
agree. I would agree. Absolutely, 100%, man.
95%, I could have gone without. I
Yeah.
could have gone without, and it was mostly me trying to gratify my ego. The best way to think about it, the law of one, the raw contact, the law of one. This is one of the greatest handbooks to understand this. Basically, it says there's two ways to polarize. Like your purpose here on earth is to go one of two ways: service to self or service to others,
Mhm.
service to all, in other words. Either I want to have an experience to serve myself and gratify myself, or I want to have an experience that extends love and serves others.
Yeah.
95%, any sex that you have that's service to self, nothing wrong, nothing invalid about it, but is not, in my experience, anywhere near as fulfilling as service to other sex. And we only get to service to other sex when both heart chakras are open. The law of one's very, very clear on this. If you're in your sacral, if you're in your root, you might want to give your partner the time of their life, but even then you're still doing it just to gratify yourself. Like, I'm going to show her how great I am. Like, you're not actually thinking about her, you're thinking about how can I get gratified.
Yeah.
Two hearts are open. Again, it's the one being making love through two bodies. And I can't say I've experienced this an enormous amount of times, but I've tasted enough to know that for the rest of my life, I'm 26, I will not have sex out of a devoted heart open container where there is love or intimacy, because it, not because it wouldn't feel good, but because there's literally no interest. Not because I'm tempted and I'm going to push it away. It's like, no, it's just literally not interesting. I don't think about it because
Uh-huh.
the quality is so much higher. It's like, you can't convince me to eat McDonald's if I have a 5-star French chef cooking organic at home. Like, try your hardest, you know?
Yeah, you know what? You know what? I'll transplant this into my experience. I've been vegan for a long time, and
Mhm.
I was living at the village in Costa Rica, which I still highly recommend. I think they'd love you, and I think you'd find them absolutely fascinating. So this was the view
Yeah.
outside my window, and uh, a chicken died, and people were like, "Well, what are we gonna do with it?" And I was like, I haven't had fried chicken in a long time, and that went so unwell. I was like, "Let's make fried chicken." So we made fried chicken, me and these two others, who they eventually got married. It was really sweet, but the chicken did not sit well with it. Tasted great in the moment, and I had diarrhea for 2 days. So I was just like, so I have moments still where I crave like wham bam, thank you, ma'am, kind of, or not even that, because that's like that's so casual as to not have a container. Like I fancy that I still crave a like a friends with benefits situation with someone conscious or something, and the heart would have to open for sure.
Yep.
And maybe there's something possible there, but because I went for a year wanting want to have a wife more than I actually wanted to have a wife, out of pain and fear and sadness and grief and thinking, all right, well, I don't want to have to experience this post-breakup pain again, which I respect you in your resilience. I love. I won't talk about any of that, but so because you're so present and
We
you
can talk about it.
here. We can? Okay, yeah. So you recently went through a sort of a
Yeah.
breakup as well, and I
Yep.
witnessed part of it, and it was just how you processed and moved through and allowed and immediately like coached yourself from ACIM. I was like, there's something cool about that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because the mind wants to make stories again. So the context is that Lewis and I were hanging out at a spot, and coincidentally, my ex girlfriend was in the same spot, and I hadn't seen her since we had uh, a breakup, you could say, and a fairly intense separation. But it was all good, and she showed up, and I was able to play it cool in the moment. It was all great, but then afterwards, sadness and grief just emerged. And immediately the mind, the little boy that wanted to still be attached was like, well, what does it mean? Is this a synchronicity? If I saw like this bird in the sky at this time and I'm getting coached in this way, like we could still be together. And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I do not know what I am seeing. I have a perceptual, these are all themes in the Course of Miracles. I do not know what anything is for. I don't know why I happen to see her. I have a perceptual problem. So, how I'm perceiving it, that I'm this separate self, seeing this separate self, and I need that separate self to complete myself. I have a perceptual problem.
Yeah.
I do not perceive my best interest. So, whatever I think is the best case scenario for the situation, I actually can't perceive it. Spirit does. I can't. Little Eric, no shot. And I have given this all the meaning that it has. So whatever synchronicity, like, but wait, we at this time and it was 444, and I have given that all the meaning. It has no intrinsic meaning. I have given it all the meaning it has. And these principles, once you learn them and apply them, you realize they're bulletproof, so to speak, from suffering any more stupidly than I would have had to, because there was obviously pain and you got to witness that. But in understanding, okay, I'm not seeing this through my right mind. I'm surrendering to spirit, to a higher power. I call on the Holy Spirit, and I can see it quickly. And I was able to move back into a better space. Yeah.
Because thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, lead to results. And if we can shift the thoughts,
Yeah.
then we can debug the feelings that arose from the delusions and the illusions.
100%. 100%. And that is where the magic happens. And for anyone, anyone that is, there's a lot of different paths. And if you are interested in purifying your sexuality, I mean, the workbook in A Course in Miracles is bulletproof. And I'm just going to be very transparent. I never had experienced any sort of, I was spiritual for many years, meditated for over, I think, 4 or 5 years before I actually practiced the Course in Miracles. And it was through the application at the level of the mind that I first experienced any sort of third eye activation, that I was finally able to free myself from the guilt of my sexual past and all these ideas, the ego trying to keep me feeling really guilty because that's what the ego does best.
Mhm.
And to actually have a Kundalini awakening experience where the sexual energy goes from the root up through the third eye to the crown, and your entire body is glowing with Shakti, and it's a very sacred experience that can happen different ways for different people. But within the first 30 days, that experience is called an inner conjunction. That happened once, and then 30 days later happened again. And the power of the Course in Miracles, which is really the power of letting your vision be, I don't say perfected, but to actually see accurately through spirit is the way to go. Because if you're trying to be, you've already, men listening to this, they've probably already tried to quit porn a handful of times. They've tried to quit their lust many times. I can bet you. Well, why can't you? Why can't you actually do it?
Yeah, stop fighting the lower, start seeking the higher.
We are always being pulled up. Grace is always pulling us up. It's like letting go of that, like just this duffel bag of weights, and you up, and not feeding yourself more nonsense thoughts. And it's like it starts in the mind. And for me, ACIM, A Course in Miracles, was like it works. It works. So check it out. And if it's not A Course in Miracles, surrendering to a higher power, accepting that, okay, there's a higher power that literally just wants to bless me more than I could possibly imagine.
Hmm.
Check it out. And this higher power, whatever you want to call it, will only work as much as you are willing to accept it and actually give to it.
Hmm.
It can't purify or correct your vision to anything you don't want to show it, anything you want to withhold. It's not going to come into your stuff and touch it and change it. But anything you want to offer, like I see I have a perceptual problem in me around women. I seem to think that I need them for validation and to feel good. And I'm on this cycle. Holy Spirit, I give it to you to see this through my right mind, because on my own, I am in this pattern. Please show me. I ask for the miracle. How can I see this through love, through the eyes of innocence? But mean it with your heart. That's it. That is the key. If you don't mean it, if you don't desire it, you can only be met to the degree that you mean it and feel it. Another way to say it is like pray. If you didn't have words to pray, how would your body feel for this request? Like, what would you feel in your body? And that's another good compass that I use. Is like, okay, if I didn't have words, so I'm not just like gibberish in my mind, but if I had to pray through my body, like, what would that feel like?
Yeah, there's a verse in I think it's Romans. Paul talks about the Holy Spirit groans and travails and prays, intercedes for us. Like it knows how to pray beyond what we know how to pray. And like, I mean, we think we need to change life, but really prayer is changing our mind through surrendering our mind to a higher mind.
That's it. That is it. That is it. And there's so much grace that can finally enter, that wants to just pour into us when we can accept that you don't perceive your best interest. If you perceived your best interest, if you thought the sex or the porn was what was going to work, like, why are you still going back to it? Why are you still unsatisfied? Why are you still not in relationships that like you clearly don't know what you want. And if you think you know what you want, have fun. This is like the trap of manifestation. So I kind of opened up, like, I used the laws of the universe to manifest. Yeah, I did it really successfully. I did it in college. I got the girl. I got status. I got really cool paychecks, great sales success where I got to the status of being the best at something. Uh-oh, I'm still unhappy. Uh-oh, my heart's not full. Uh-oh, I use these laws, but maybe I just need to manifest this or manifest that, or you don't know. You literally don't know what it is you actually want. And if you think you do, go for it. Like, go all in. You like feel the feeling, fucking manifest it. Like, I think it's a great start until you realize that only spirit can fulfill you, and spirit knows so much better what you want. Spirit knows your heart better than you do. And when we surrender to that, bliss and these much deeper states of realization can come through, and you won't be able to miss it. Yeah.
Yeah, if I keep surrounding myself with cool people like you, eventually I'll embody that fully because I hear that and I've experienced moments like spikes of that, and I still buy into and love my desires and being all in with my particular visions and
Yeah,
manifestations and skills and like, I can have a great life and all this. But
totally.
back a little bit, consciousness wakes up consciously. So we need to be aware of what is there that we're wanting to share with the
Mhm.
Holy Spirit. It's not
Yes.
just going to fix us.
No.
And then, what part did ACIM play in your sexual awakening, so to speak? Because that stuff that you talk about, it's not in there. There's stuff about ego-driven sex for sure, and like sex being used by the ego. But who did you get this sealing practice? Like, is there a lineage or a set of teachings or trainings? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few different ways. There was always an intuition, what I will say. I was in a devoted relationship when I was 17 years old in high school. And intuitively, I was like, yeah, I probably don't like watch porn. Like, you get to have this beautiful sexual experience. Let it go. And so intuitively, I got it. Even when I got to college, there was these long stretches where, like, I'm like, no, I just don't want to use my energy that way. And
Hmm.
I'd get sucked back in, sucked back in, sucked back in. I'm just I was just a little boy. And it was really listening to one of my spiritual teachers, Aaron Abke, and he had a podcast he did with Andre, I forgot his name, the Know Thyself podcast, where they were talking about the power of like really sealing that energy and being celibate. And it was like that was the final symbol where I already knew this. I felt it in my heart, and I was like hearing their conversation about Kundalini awakening. And I've been listening to Aaron Abke talk about Kundalini awakening for years. And I was like, above all else, I want that. I'm like, I don't know if that's my poor spiritual ego. I don't know if that's me trying to get some sort of validation that if Kundalini awakens, maybe I'll finally be worthy. But like, I just knew in my heart of hearts, above all else, I want to know myself in that way and experience that energy. And so the sealing began. And ACIM, I began really studying religiously in the beginning of 2024. I was doing a lesson a day, super devoted, always practicing.
Hmm.
And that accelerated sealing the energy. The process already began. That alone,
They worked in tandem. Sealing the energy gave you more energy to rise, and rising gave you more capacity to
precisely,
honor
pure,
the energy.
right. Purifying the mind gave me that sort of like clean, pure witness capacity that brings Shakti up, because Shiva's the witnessing the myth of Shiva and Shakti, how it works. But like basically my consciousness got so purified so quickly, like the heavy lifting, like just stones just started being removed out of the stream. Because I was holding on to a lot of guilt, like a ton of guilt and a ton of pain and all these things. And I had all these thoughts in my mind that I would wrestle with. And of course, the Miracles was like, check it out, bro. You don't need to wrestle with any of that. You don't need to wrestle with any of that, because Big Brother Holy Spirit is here to literally fly you through these clouds like a jetliner. And there's no reason to walk around in the fog when you're literally a lighthouse. Your consciousness, the self, the Christ is this glowing light that will illuminate all of that. And I was like, cool, sounds good. I'm going to double down on that. And sure enough, the degree that I went all in, I would just be met with this like joy, increasing levels of joy, where I was like, this is remarkable. And then like learning that nothing has any, everything I see has no meaning, or something like that. I have given this all the meaning it has. What a permit. Like, thank God. You mean all that pain about my sexual past, I had given that all the meaning it has?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a relief, because I'd given it a meaning that I'm a guilty bastard and I should be punished unconsciously. You know what I mean? Like, so no thanks. How about no thanks? Like, I've given that the meaning. I choose not to give it any meaning. And then this meaninglessness starts to arise. which leaves you with one conclusion. Oh, I am the source of meaning. Like I am the point. I am the point, you know? And so ACM was and still is a massive, massive role. There's nothing more fulfilling personally in my life right now than yeah. Yeah, learning it.
This is beautiful. Yeah, that kind of makes me curious to get back into it. I mean, if you started a study group, like a once a week kind of thing on Zoom or whatever, I'd be curious. Your charisma, inspiration, and actual embodiment of the teaching would be enough for me to be curious to come. But
Cool.
let's get
Yeah.
back to this on-ramp to helping people use their wet
Absolutely.
dreams to cure their porn addiction and to get them closer to God. Um,
One. First thing, may I jump in? Because there's something that comes through right away.
sure, please.
You have to want it. You
Mhm.
have to literally want it. If you're like, oh man, poor me, I just can't stop mass pornography. You don't want it. Like don't kid yourself. Like you're in this loop. The first thing is to want it. That doesn't mean it goes away overnight, and that doesn't mean feel guilty if you want it, then you succumb. But there needs to be a genuine desire to experience your sexual energy in a higher way, to experience your creative energy, to want to rise, to grow, to change. If there is no desire, nothing's happening, period. There's nothing to work with.
Yeah, I'll say this. You've got this over and above other people, generally speaking, is in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill says, define your dream and get a burning desire for its achievement. You had a burning desire, a magnificent obsession. I could hear it in where you've landed with it. And so, like, you got a burning desire then also specifically for the divine experience. And so instead of fighting what's lower, seek what's higher. What is it? Aim at heaven, you'll get what we're meant to have of earth thrown in. Aim at earth, we'll get neither. That's C.S. Lewis. And then Augustine
Like
said,
that. It's so good.
isn't it? Isn't it? I love
It's
that guy.
so good.
I'm thinking about reading more of him soon. But St. Augustine also said, our hearts are restless. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and they are restless until they rest in thee. And he's talking about the Holy Spirit. He's talking about divinity. And so, like, you could give someone the cheat code at level one or level two, and you could say, "Hey, it's all about God. Like, you made all this up. You don't actually need the wife, the life, the job, the business, the achievement, the
Right.
impact." And they might hear it, they might not. So let's start with like so, why would someone want to have start having dream sex more than IRL sex? And I thought about this briefly. I was like, you remember that character Mystique from X-Men?
Mm. No.
She's a blue character eyes. She can change into any other woman, and she morphs throughout the trilogy strategically to help the bad mutants or whatever. And so for for most men, there's this phenomenon known as the Coolidge effect. Have you heard of this?
Mm. Yeah, the Coolidge. Yeah, 100%. That's with like the rats, right? And the increasing need for the stimulus, essentially, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you the story.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
read it to you. President Calvin Coolidge and his wife to our farm. The lady noticed a rooster mating frequently and asked how often it happened. The farmer proudly responded dozens of times per day. And she says, "Tell that to the president," because she apparently had not been getting as much as she wanted. Coolidge asked when he came to the rooster, "Is it with the same hen?" And the farmer said, "No, it's a different one each time." And then Coolidge smiles and says, "Tell that to Mrs. Coolidge." So it's like this phenomena where males of many species, mammals, experience renewed sexual interest, I'm quoting, and arousal when exposed to new potential mates, even after losing interest in an existing partner. And this is a hedonic treadmill that evolution seems to have equipped our brain with until we harness and harvest it for the sake of higher purposes. We're gonna be hunting and hungry and horny and hot for every woman who's like reproductively viable who walks across our screen or across our visual field. And so like what if we could have every woman we wanted on the way to something even better? So that would be where I would start. Let's talk about somebody who's like addicted to porn, right? They've been fighting porn. Well, okay, instead of fighting porn, put your mind on what's above with faith and trust that there is something above for you to find. And in that process, you'll go to the gym and you'll see her ass is great. You want to do her doggy style, and then you get to do her doggy style in the dream, and then it's done because the victory is won by the Holy Spirit and God in you.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing so far. And then, like, go ahead. Yeah.
the victory isn't it's done because I had dream sex. The
Done
victory is
in
that I'm
God.
free from the desire.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'm
done
free
in
from the
God,
desire.
and you're
Right.
appropriating grace. You're
Right.
receiving it and starting to embody it more. But yeah, go ahead. You got more? Yes.
No, keep going. Keep going. I'm listening.
Okay, so here's where we finally let you know, and you're going to hear it next week too at men's group. So, welcome. Everybody hears it a lot lately. But the five levels of consciousness, right? So there's at least five levels, and it sounds linear, it sounds hierarchical. Just let that go. It's the most beautiful framework for life and engaging with life that I've ever seen. I've literally delivered it twice today, once for 5 minutes and once for 30 minutes. So it's like an accordion, how rich and deep and subtle it is. But let's map it into the world of like sex too. So level one is disoriented, no goal, powerless, looking for a magic pill, looking for a savior, thinking your life you can only get happiness if you make your life conditions equal your blueprint. Not realizing that that blueprint was a bunch of meaning you added to life that you made up or that you were domesticated and programmed into by preachers, teachers, family, friends, media, government. So until we start peeling the layers of that out of our nervous system and also the trauma that is entangled with that, that makes us think we need to keep compulsively repeating things that are dysfunctional and undesirable ultimately, until we take responsibility for what is within us, to quote the Gospel of Thomas, what is within us will destroy us. But if we bring it forth, it will save us. So
Mm,
until man makes what is unconscious conscious, the outer world will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. That was Carl Jung, which you did. You did as you started to peel back the layers of meaning and the guilt and the grief and the judgment on self. And that gave more space for grace and God and love to start flowing back into and through you. So then let's talk about level two, because that's where, at least where you started to get to when you were like, I am responsible. Life isn't happening to me, it's happening by me. I have a say in this thing. And John likes to say, we can't stop God, but we can put our foot on the brakes. We're still moving in the direction that God wants us to go, but we're just going slower and we're, hell no, I won't go. We're like fighting the thing.
yeah.
And Shinzen Young talks about this too in The Science of Enlightenment. He says, all of experience is meant to be experienced completely. We're meant to metabolize it and be metabolized by it. It's meant to pass through us. And as it passes through us, to wake us up, unless we resist it. Suffering is pain multiplied by resistance or pleasure multiplied by resistance. So if we can cease resisting and be fully aware and mindful and present and precise in what we're feeling without resisting it, it will be healing to us.
Yes.
And instead of like resisting a thing and then storing it, the body keeps score, right? Or the mind keeps score too in a subtle way. Instead of holding on to it, we're metabolizing. And if you complete this metabolic process, well, let's talk about sex at level two, though. Sex at level one is like, oh, I'm going to get laid. Oh, I got lucky. Like somehow magic happened and my desire got met. Great work. I'm like, as if it's by chance and with hope and maybe, maybe not. Then level two is the level of like the pickup artists who are like, I got to. I got to make something happen or else I'm not a man. That was me right before I turned 18. I was like, I need to get laid. I need to lose my virginity. And then through college, I was like, man, everybody else has had more sex than me. I feel really I'm missing out. I've been missing
Mhm.
out. So I
Oh yeah.
studied and I trained and I figured out how to be a social rock star and all this other stuff to a certain degree. And thanks for your grace. I know that this this is a long tangent, but
Good.
I promise it'll land in a really fun way. So level two is like, I need to get sex. There's something outside of me I need to achieve. I have to, got to, must strive, struggle, stress, fight, push to make something happen. And once I do, then I'll be happy. But you realized that that's not how it works. You're on a hedonic treadmill. It's like a trampoline. You jump up and now I got the thing, and then you fall back down again. It's like there's nothing. It was meaningless. And so level two sex is I've got to get to the orgasm. I've
Yeah.
got to achieve something. I've got to find that relief at the end. And this is where people are coming into porn, is they think they're using porn, but porn is using them. It's a delusion. It's an illusion and it hijacks our nervous system's capacity for perceiving sexual stimuli and then hooks us into consumption. It's the leaf blower goes from suck
Yep.
blow, or Or eventually. Sorry. This is where the leaf blower goes, it turns from blow to suck. Which is funny in a sexual context. So it's like, all right, I need you complete me. Ah, it's like, no, you don't. And then you get to level three, where it's like, okay, I've done enough of the peeling the layers back. This is it, and it is perfect. All the meaning I need exists in my being fully present with whatever is right now, as it is, without needing it to mean something about me or to me about some goal I need to achieve. We're about to get to service-based sex because I saw it. It was such a beautiful like constellation of how it fits here. So level three sex is like, I could take it or leave it. I don't need it. I'm happy. I'm in bliss. And I get to experience this. Great. Cool. I'll take it. This is fun. But it's not necessarily, and you look at the world of like Tantra or BDSM or, the polyamory, the highest, the most charitable reading of those communities, because there's shadow there too, is that they are freeing and liberating sexual energy to just play and enjoy. But whether they know it, like it, agree with it, believe it or not, we have a spiritual body that if we surrender to our nature, we can thrive and thrill in a deeper form of sex, in more fulfilling orgasms, where it's no longer about just me. I'm not going to jerk myself off with joy, embalm myself in euphoria, or bastardize myself with bliss. I'm going to realize that bliss is a kiss from God through me to whoever is meant to be connected with me in that way. And then, so level four is like, all right, I burned the blueprints. I don't need to force my life conditions to match anything. I'm content with all of what is as it is. Now, maybe that I'm full, I can overflow into giving to others because it feels good, not because I'm trying to get something or impress someone.
Mhm.
Because it's like, it's who I am. I am a gift. I am love. This is when we were talking about a couple days ago, or maybe yesterday, about the ego is no longer the identity, it's the instrument for love. This is where that happens, level three and level four. Level two, it's like, that's me. I need to get big and strong and show you how many people I've fucked and, X, Y, and Z. And then it deflates at level three. It just pops like a hot zit. And it's like, all right, well, this is it. And I'm not it. And it's not it. Um, and now level four, it's like, no, actually, the ego is like it's a vehicle for the divine spark to express itself in form. We go from formless love at level three to love in form at level four. And then there's level five, which is, I think, where you probably thrive and where our men listening might want to take a dive, which is, you can't see the picture while you're inside of it. So if you're wanting to experience your highest expression of thriving and potency and joy and peace and love, it's not just about your mind figuring out how to serve. Because at level four, you're still trying to kind of figure out, like, okay, what do I do to be of service and to make a difference? Level five, you're like, all right, not my will, but thine be done. I am being done. I'm not doing me anymore. God is doing me.
Yes. Yes.
And so sex at that point is God guides your hand. You move her,
Oh,
touch her in the specific best possible way that she didn't know she wanted. And so does she with you. And you can read about this in Letting Go by David Hawkins. He talks about this, sex after one has let go. You got that book, man? I'm not
excellent.
surprised.
Yeah.
Delighted.
Boom. Yeah.
Oh man, the pathway of surrender. So
So
anyway,
good.
those are the five levels. And I think the people who would resonate most with this whole on-ramp we're about to build to have these experiences are the ones who see that there's a certain bankruptcy until level three and above. And that the pursuit of desires, I mean, I wouldn't make anybody wrong for pursuing any desire. I think it's God wrapped in bacon. I think if you own your responsibility and activate your will and start manifesting, you're on a path that will inevitably lead you up.
Absolutely.
Because eventually you'll just run out of things to manifest, or you'll see through the delusion of that. And what do you hear from all that, though, man? Thanks for your generosity. Five whole levels later.
Yeah, that was great. I hear that we have a choice.
Hmm.
We have a choice, and the awareness is there to those that want it. Period. And uh anyone that's on those in the cycle of the bankruptcy, it's like sometimes you just got to go bankrupt again and again and again. And Christ always say, choose again, choose again. choose again. This is what time is for. Choose again. Like no worries. I remember literally hearing after just some crushing defeats in my college days with the battle, there was just like this piece of like, choose again, brother. Like you're gonna have the choice again. At the end of the day, we have a choice, what we want to do with it. And like it or not, some people just have to literally experience enough pain or bankruptcy or whatever negative feelings. They're like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. And it's like it's kind of like the step one in the 12 steps. It's like I have a problem, a perceptual problem. And once you can admit that, like I don't want to make this choice anymore and own it, then you can start to rise. And uh maybe not everyone wants to rise to these higher expressions. Maybe that's not what they're meant to do in this lifetime. And that's fine because there's not like one isn't invalid. Like having sex that service to the self. The law of one is so crystal clear that service to self sex is not invalid. It is still the creator is still learning who the creator is like through these experiences. But for about 95% of the people, it is so much more deeply unsatisfying because we're geared towards oneness and unity, and to have experiences that where you can taste that, it's like, again, it's the analogy of McDonald's versus the chef. You can't untaste it. So
Yeah.
there's a lot there. There's a lot there. And here's what's interesting too. If you want me to keep flowing, is when you have decided that you're done with that level, there will be a lesson. There is a test. I swear it's like the finals of a school year. You'll be tested again and again. That's one way to look at it.
I look
And
forward to being tested.
like, okay, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Um, there's a story I do feel called to share. Because it shows the incredible power of our sexual energy. And it goes like this. When I graduated college, I was sealed. I was like, I'm done. I'm using this sexual energy for myself. I started going to the woods every day, playing my guitar, singing barefoot, a hippie spiritual summer before I started my corporate job with no lust. There was an evening where my old high school buddies wanted to go to a restaurant called the Tilted Kilt. Are you familiar with this place?
No, is it like
It,
Hooters?
Precisely. The women are dressed promiscuously to get a rise out of men, and they serve you wings and beer so you can watch men beat the shit out of each other on TV, like the UFC, all of that. There's no judgment. It's not my scene. And I didn't want to go, but my high school buddies were there. It's the last time I was going to see them before going to off to move to Texas. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go. But my energy is going to stay sealed. And so what did that look like? I walk in and there's cleavage everywhere. There's butts everywhere. And there's women more or less everywhere. And every time this would come into my perception of cleavage, I would literally look away like, nope, not interested. Nope, I'm good. I don't even want to eat this food. Actually, I brought my own food, and I just literally kept it still. I was polite. I was able to like talk to the waitress, but there was not one drop of like, oh, you're kind of cute. There was not one drop of sexual energy leaked. Meanwhile, my friend, across the table is like getting drunk on beer and flirting and like in that all, kind of going for it, trying to get a conversation going with some of these women, just trying to gratify himself. My energy was sealed. And for the entire night, whenever I saw a woman dressed a certain way, I almost felt like a compassion, just like, oh, like this is what you're doing right now in life. That's great. And I don't want to just see you as some separate body. Like you're more than that. And I'm not going to even entertain these tempting bits, not even entertain it. The end of the night comes. And I started to notice the waitress was getting kind of like frazzled, and I was getting like some looks. Didn't think anything of it. The end of the night comes, and the waitress comes over with a post-it note. And on that post-it note is every waitress's number, hair color, and the girl saying basically, we all think you're hot AF, like take your pick. And then her other waitress friend comes up and just corroborates, like, we all think you're so hot, like literally take your pick. And they give me a post-it note with every girl's number. This happens. My friend across the table is drops because he's been flirting all night, and I haven't had a beer, I haven't had a chicken wing, I've just been like in my energy, in my presence, in my being. His jaw drops, and in that moment I feel this peace, I feel this desire that feels like I want to meditate and just be in the presence, because the fantasy is so childlike, so adolescent, so pornographic that you go to a Hooters and every single girl wants you, they throw themselves at you. It was like this hilarious test because I had done such a great amount of work sealing my energy and raising it for myself, that it was like the universe was like, are you sure if I gave you every woman at this Tilted Kilt, would you not leak a little bit? I was like, nope, I'm good because I can see through the illusion. I see so clearly that this could not validate me outside of what a childlike mind would fantasize about how good this can be. And so that was that. And I tell that story because that is so potent that you can walk into a restaurant, not leak any energy, and every waitress, all the feminine energy literally is attracted to you by the end of the night. And it wasn't the pair of jeans I had on. It wasn't my shirt. I've worn that same outfit out in college, and it didn't get me any luck, right? So it wasn't that. That is the energetic signature of a man that is committed to his being, to his presence, to using and cultivating that sexual energy for his mission, vision, true values. It radiates into the field, and you will attract truly what is meant for you. And first it was, I had to sweep through these lessons, but that moment gave me this deep, a faith so deep in the potency of this energy. And again, if you've only ever experienced it at your root chakra or sacral chakra, it's kind of like, oh, but it's just, I come and a little bit while later, it comes back. It can't, it's like, no. Like when you let that, when it builds and builds, there's this reservoir of grace that you're literally walking on, operating on, being on. And it just keeps pulling you up. It's, again, I'll end with this definition. Your sexual energy is the currency Shakti uses to purchase your spiritual evolution. If you don't know what Shakti means, your sexual energy is the currency that grace uses to purchase your evolution. It is the currency, it is the money, it is the bank account. The more you have, the more you can experience these states of being, the sustained happiness, the more it purifies your nervous system to literally do what you came here to do, at the highest level. And again, it's not invalid. If you're like, I just want to ejaculate every day for the rest of my life, freaking do it. Like someone's got to do it. It's not, it's probably not most of the people. If you're listening to this, it's probably not you. You wouldn't be listening this far, but
Somebody's got to do it. Taking one for the team.
take one for the team. You can come back again. That's, fair enough. But me personally, ooh, how good is it to be happy? How good is it to be so fulfilled, to go into these spots and not need? And this isn't to say I'm a saint, like I haven't like, oh, like, whoa, like that happens sometimes. And here's what I do. So because I'm not a pure, like a crystallized enlightened being. I'm a 26-year-old, boy that's really passionate about this. I'll go to the gym, and women are dressed like bubblegum nowadays in the gym. It's really, they're not shy to demonstrate their anatomy, nor should they be. Go do it. Go do it. I spent years wearing my muscle shirts in the gym. It's all good. But when I see the woman anatomy, the female anatomy that might arouse me, I literally practice forgiveness. Why? Now, why would I need to forgive? It's innocent to look at a butt. Every time you view a woman as an object, a sexual object that like, ooh, kind of like looking like, ooh, that kind of turns me on. That is service to self. You're not looking at her because she's this divine feminine grace. It's like, how can that kind of turn me on if I take a peek? And I forgive it because every time you see that other separate self, you're actually seeing yourself as an object, a separate self.
That's it.
Can't
That's
escape it.
it.
You can't escape it. So I forgive myself. And my prayers are, like, Holy Spirit, I think that I want to gratify myself with like the anatomy of this woman, but I see now that I'm viewing her as a separate self. Holy Spirit, above all else, I want to see who this woman is in truth, who this soul is in truth. Show me that, Holy Spirit. Show me that instead. And I breathe and I mean it, and I fucking mean it. That's the key ingredient. I fucking mean it when I say it. And I mean it when I say it because the sensation, this has happened a few times, when I go into a gym and I can look into other people's eyes and actually see beingness or Christ light or myself in them. It doesn't happen all the time, but I've had these glimpses. The joy is so overwhelming, so much more fulfilling. This grace, this smile that just pervades through you is so complete that you wouldn't want to stare at a butt for the rest of your freaking life. It just wouldn't, it doesn't come up. But if it comes up, it comes up, but it's not going to, you couldn't bother. You couldn't bother. So
This
that's
is
that.
amazing. That was
Yeah.
that was so great. So like if you objectify someone else, there's so many things. If you objectify someone else, you're actually objectifying yourself
Period.
at the same time. And
Period.
it's for the mind, it's from the mind, it's for the ego, it's from the ego, and it can only lead you to hell. It can only lead you to dulling your
More
capacity for
separation.
receiving and receiving peace, love, and joy if someone just becomes your toy.
That's it.
or the toy of your ego. And then the other thing, going back to your story, man, that's when I was coming up, when I was, putting the work into building this kind of system and figuring it all out, I would see those scenes from like James Bond where Sean Connery walks in the room and every female head turns because they can sort of feel his energy as it's entered the room. And I was like, I want that. That would be amazing. And you did that. And it's funny because it's okay to have things so long as those things don't have you, at which point you can have exactly what you thought you wanted, but now you see through
Bingo. Bingo.
the wanting of it. And I mean, I have to say though, if I had personally that experience, I would probably fail the test because I haven't gone through the purification process yet. So where does that get us? Who do you listen to? You gentlemen listening to this, we're gonna double down on the how now because
Yes.
because we want the wow. So who do you listen to? You listen to those who have what you want, can tell you how to get it, and who started where you are. This man in front of us is one of those. Then there's teachability index. Teachability index is how willing are you to learn on a scale of 1 to 10, and how willing are you to accept change and actually change your behavior. So we're about to learn something. You're all willing to learn. You've hung out with us for almost an hour at least, or something like this. And now you might have to change something in order to get what this is. And I don't think at this point we need to prove that sexual energy exists. I think your story demonstrates that. I don't think we need to talk about leaking sexual energy either because you've made that really clear. And I think that, distortion of sexual energy is a whole nother conversation. We could do a whole podcast on that and how to catch it and how to not let it make you its bitch because the body thinks that it's who we are. The ego thinks that it's who we are. So how do we do this? How can other people do this thing? And where would you recommend they start? And yeah, what is that like?
Man. Okay. Well, where would I recommend they start is in this moment now. You can make a choice. You can set an intention that my intention is to realize the highest expression of my sexual energy that I have access to in this lifetime. You can choose that timeline because it exists. So, right now, you can close your eyes, you can inhale and say, I am choosing this now. And if you mean it sincerely in your heart, your reality will have no choice but to serve you the teachers, the synchronicities, the lessons, the tests that will guide you on this journey. It will all be made available immediately by choosing it now in this moment and meaning it with all the access you have to your heart and just taking a pause.
I meant that so intensely that one of my lights went out.
Good. That's interesting, actually. That's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
that was crazy. I'm gonna have to replace this light again.
Blew it out, Lewis. That's so funny.
All right, that's all right. And then where do you go from there?
Where do you go from there is you I believe a mind training system is really important. I've used the Course of Miracles. It's not for everyone, but having a practice, it's going to take practice. It's going to take forgiveness, and you will start reaping the fruit immediately. Don't worry, but it will take practice. So I would suggest picking up something like a Course in Miracles, looking at the workbook lessons, going on YouTube, finding spiritual teachers that have laid out a lot of groundwork about this. For me personally, one of my greatest inspirations was a teacher named Aaron Abke on YouTube, and you could listen to the Law of One series that he's done that makes it very clear what we're doing here: service to others, service to self, the different sort of the sexual energy, negatively polarized sexual energy exchanges and positively polarized sexual energy exchanges. Listen, I can lay out everything I did. At the end of the day, if you're curious, we know what the internet is. It's all there. Explore it, mean it, taste it, and your intuition will tell you. Here's the thing: you set this intention, your guidance, your emotion, your intuition will be like, "This guy's full of shit," or "Wait, that resonates," and go where it resonates. You'll feel it. Go where it resonates. I can give tips and tricks, but it's like meditating, for example, is like you can do this whole thing through meditation. I meditated for years. That was this one of the single greatest tool I had, because if you think you're your thoughts, you're really disadvantaged. Again, so if a thought comes in like, here's a thought: I'm horny. That's a thought, brother. That is a thought convincing you that sensation of your sexual energy needs to be something needs to be done about it.
Might be a story that Satan is telling you. Yes.
It's a story. It's a story, and if you can't discern between the story, like these narratives, these movies that are being played, and who's watching the movie, you're gonna have a hard time. So it depends where you're at. But like sitting for 5 or 10 minutes a day and saying, "I'm gonna witness my thoughts. I'm just gonna sit here and watch." And you'll notice, and this is the greatest thing to do with these burning desires. And boy, have I had quite a few of them. I will sit there in meditation, and my entire body will be lit ablaze for lust, lit ablaze. I mean, like, there's nothing I want more than to make love right this second, go, go, go. So I think, but when I pause, I can witness. I don't have to do anything. You never have to do anything. I sit there and I just witness it. And what you'll notice is that, like letting go teaches us, it can't last forever. It simply
Right.
can't.
And it passes away. Yeah.
It passes away. And cool, you made it. And here's the thing is when that desire comes around again, it's going to be just a little bit less heat than the first time it came. Like any thought, it doesn't have to just be sexual desire. It can be a thought that I'm guilty or I'm no good or I'm worthless. All these thoughts, if you can just witness it without attaching, watch it go by like a stick on top of a stream or a river. Don't touch it. Just be
Right.
wow, like it's a thought. I'm witnessing the thought. I can see the thought. It'll go. When that thought comes back, it will not be as potent. And this is the practice that saved my life because when I tell you that I was bogged down with sexual distortions and fantasies that were really keeping me enslaved at a deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable level, it was only meditation, the grace of realizing that I am the witness, I am not the thought, that saved me from cracking into these urges. Because at any given time, you have the capacity to be the witness, to just watch it. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to wrestle, you can just watch it. And awareness is infinitely more powerful than thoughts. Thoughts arise in awareness. A thought is an awareness itself. A thought can't be aware of its own thoughtness. Only awareness can be aware of a thought, period. And
Yeah.
you are the awareness. And until you can start to identify that, okay, I am the awareness, I'm having this human experience, and these thoughts are maybe sometimes helpful, sometimes not. Until you can start to identify that I am the one watching these thoughts, these this ego is ingenious, the Course in Miracles says, ingenious in its way to keep you on a cycle of guilt and doing what you know you don't want to do again and again. It is ingenious with its explanations and why I just need a release. I worked. It will convince you again and again and again. But again, note that the same voice that tempted you to do it is the same voice that punishes you afterwards. You really don't want anything to do with that voice except to be able to watch it and kind of laugh at it after a while, where it's like, ah, silly ego. Like, I think that I want porn right now. What I really want is peace, and I choose that. And this is the last kind of part of this flow. Do not make yourself guilty.
Yeah.
If you fall back into the loop, the worst thing you can do is be guilty about it. And here's what's interesting, and this wisdom came to me. You cannot be free from porn and masturbating until you can watch porn and masturbate freely. Ooh, what do I mean by that? You can't be free from porn and masturbating until you can watch it, do it freely. Meaning, okay, I have this desire. It says watch porn and masturbate. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to stay conscious. I'm going to stay aware. I'm going to do my thing, have my release, but I'm not going to leave awareness that, okay, I'm doing this thing that I'm watching the whole time. And then watch how now it's going to make me feel guilty. And like, okay, I just watch the pattern play out. Temptation, climax, release, guilt. And if you can not succumb to, not get attached to the guilt part of the temptation, just watch it, have the experience freely, you will see how the hook starts to unhinge. Because that's essentially what I was experiencing with my wet dream phenomenon, is that I was experiencing the desire, but there wasn't an attachment to it. So it's not that the desire is wrong or evil, but being able to stay conscious while it takes place, and not, there was no way for me to feel guilty about it because it was happening in my dream state, right? So I wasn't the one doing it. There was no doer. It was just this experience of the desire being made manifest, that can be astral or whatever the hell is happening for all that time. So that is the second key: is do everything you can to witness the temptation, point your heart at the higher power, at God, at what you really want every time it comes up. But then this doesn't happen overnight. When you succumb to the desire, do not make yourself guilty. Be like, okay, I did it again. It wasn't what I actually wanted because I'm feeling the sensation. and I can choose differently next time if I want. Stay conscious while it happens, and you'll start to unhook yourself. And this is one of the things that saved me, because it wasn't like when I was in college experimenting with semen retention, all these things, it didn't happen. I'd have a long stretch, then I'd screw up, but it was like one of the key changes was like, I'm not going to make myself feel bad if I get it happen, but I'm not going to listen to the voice. It's like, you fucking did it again, didn't you? Ba, 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 goes the ego. It's like, I'm not going to listen to you. I had the experience. I made my choice, done. And so that's my next piece of advice.
So I hear you and I love and see how this can free someone from the compulsiveness of sexuality that we're programmed with, that we're using to obscure trauma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the cultivation of those specific higher states of bliss that then comes out of this is, I think, another leg to the journey. And I'm curious about, because let's say somebody gets to the point where they're free from their sexual desires. And now it's
Yeah.
free to flow. And maybe they're doing like macrocosmic orbit from Montauk Chia, or they're doing Babaji Tantra Cobra Breath from Ecstatic Hearts Tantra, whatever. Right. And so the energy is moving through them and it's not getting pooled down there and compulsive and pulling. And now they're working at on the thoughts as well. They're like, oh, I'm horny. Okay, well that thought is not me. It's just something that's happening in me or to me
Right.
and it doesn't have to be me. I can
Right.
let it move through me. Where do you go next in order to actually embody bliss to where, because that's the ultimate. The ultimate is this. Yeah, go ahead.
So there is no doer that's going to get you to bliss. This is where surrender is the only next piece of the path.
So was
Every time
letting go?
it's letting go. It's literally letting go. Every time that you want to try to feel bliss, I never can. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna meditate and like, please, like show up. Like that's the quickest way to blow it away. But the moments where I've just literally been in pure presence and I go deeper into just the witness consciousness, the witness, and praise the witness, um, which is to say, I am that I am. All the love that you give to your I am presence, which is your witness consciousness, all the love that you're giving to that is actually the love you're receiving from it, because giving and receiving are one in truth. Of course, miracles will teach us that. You cannot. It's almost, I've almost heard it described like enlightenment or bliss or these states. It's like it's always residing, because the self, the capital S self, is like the sun. It's always on and it's always shining. These thoughts and these beliefs and these conditions and these distortions are the clouds passing through. And
Yeah.
so it's not, well, how do I be the sun? It's like the sun asking, well, how do I shine? It's like, no, you're always shining. Your being is always shining. You can't make it shine more or less. You don't have a choice. It's Christed. It's like it's
Yeah.
in the presence of our, made in the presence, right, of our creator, or the image of our creator. um your only job is to let go of the clouds by seeing them as clouds. A Course in Miracles says you are never responsible for the error, you're only responsible for the correction of it. Meaning you are never the one to be guilty for watching porn, masturbating, whatever it is. You're never the one that's guilty. Your only job, you're not responsible for that. You're actually not, really. It was a lot of conditioning and a lot of karma. A lot of things came before you making that decision to watch porn. A whole lot of dominoes fell. But what you are responsible for is the decision to see it in truth, the decision to choose that I want to see this through love, not fear. And that's it. That's the whole road. And by choosing that, hey, I'm surrounded by these foggy clouds and I can't see the sun. All you have to say is, I want to see this through the eyes of love, through the eyes of innocence. I surrender the fear, and the fog will start to dissipate. And as it does, the shininess will start to become more and more uh, present. You'll become more aware of it, that it's always there. And now it's at the point, I'm not like blissed out all the time, but I'll be, if I'm not one of the happiest people I know, and that I wake up and it's like I am excited to start the day. I pour into everyone. Like I get so overjoyed. I can move my body and I want to sing and dance and I have this energy. And even when I don't sleep, there's this enthusiasm coursing through me always. And like, I mean, you've witnessed me, you can speak for yourself as well, but this is a result of letting go of the storm clouds. Because when I had storm clouds, it's like, well, I'm Eeyore. I'm this rain clouds over me, and like I need to go punish myself in the gym and punish myself with my diet and punish myself with chronic skin, whatever. but that's not who you are. These are the clouds just obstructing your sunshine, and you are sunshine, baby. Every single person listening to this is sunshine, a
Uh-huh.
ray of the sun, a ray of the sun, so perfect, so full of light, so literally unconditionally loving. It's like, um, I implore you to look past the cloud, baby.
Oh,
That's it.
elegant as fuck, man. I was already thinking, and I want you to receive this acknowledgement, Eric. Like I'm going to need to re-listen to this podcast. There's a density and a beauty and an elegance and a potency to it. I'm just like, whoa. Um, and I love what I've heard. Sorry, did you hear that? Did you receive that?
Thank you for sharing. I'm extremely passionate about this, and so using my voice to express what has been my greatest passion for the last 6, 7 years of my life is really, really joyful for me. So thank you. Continue.
You're welcome. I'll double down on that before I continue. If you could lead a retreat where you induce this kind of this level of embodied in entheos, like God within, the Holy Spirit flowing, the cloud, the sun past the clouds, like if you could do that over the course of 3 to 5, 7 days or something like that, people should pay for that. Like, because it's the world needs that shit. So I'm just gonna leave that with you, even though the sales thing was more exciting for you, and uh, and I'm gonna acknowledge this fastidious, precise, subtle process of catching yourself in the thoughts and in the sensations too, and then staying awake through. And what this will do is eliminate the field of temptation and the false salience of these things from you. The seduction inside you ceases, and you start to be grounded and present and centered and clear and available. And I loved you went into the bliss thing. You were like, you can't do bliss. You can
There's
get
no
out of the
place
way
for
of and receive being the bliss that you already always were as the capital S self when you stop believing that the ego is some kind of wealth. It's not. I mean, it's an instrument. It's nice, but it's not us. And I'm also hearing there's like micro attachments. Like the moment most men have a desire and perception for a butt or something, it's like, ooh, and there's a clutching, there's a clinging, there's an identification with the desire that then causes so Heraclitus. I know you had a couple things. I'm coming back to you. Don't worry.
good, baby. Let's go.
Heraclitus, Greek philosopher, he said, just as I am and I am not, so also is this river that I step into. It is and it is not. So it's a process. We're a flow. We're meant to be a flux. We're meant to be this dance of life through us rather than this stop confusing movements for rocks and motion for stillness and processes for things. I'm not a rock. I'm a river. And so like this process that we've been trained in through porn and domestication and then trauma or dancing with trauma is it's like, all right, well, I'm going to reach outside of me to feel and deal with what's inside of me, which is fundamentally a mistake. I'm trying to solve an internal problem with an external solution. Like, no, that's stupid. But like the external solution looks like this woman's tits and ass in the moment. It looks like her smiling back at me or having an orgasm because of me or something. And so then that becomes a part of the architecture of the ego, the clouds you were talking about.
Mm.
And so if we can prescribe the symptom, if we can allow it to be there without attaching to it, that's what I heard, and you tell me if I'm reading you right, then it can flow through us and we can flow through it without getting stopped up by it. Is that correct?
100%. Yeah, don't clutch it. Don't. It's like a burning hot egg. Just you can let go of it. You can let go of it. And it's not always apparent because we do have these attachments. And I've gotten to witness that within myself. Like there's deeper and deeper attachments that requires deeper and deeper awareness to realize. But for a lot of the big purification, it's like, oh, just let go. If you can just watch it and not touch it, then the relentless temptation or the relentless wandering eyes will really start to clear up quickly.
Hmm.
And again, I can't stress enough. It's like the point isn't like, okay, I'm going to the gym, blinders on, like, no, don't look, no, don't look, dude. It's gonna happen. Like you are a human. And it's gonna be like it's gonna come into your awareness, but it's how you deal with it in that moment. Like I don't want to see her as a separate self. Thank you. Done. It's over. There's no guilt. There's nothing like your eyes want it. Big deal. Big deal. Or like you can appreciate like, wow, I'm noticing that like I have a human body that like appreciates other human bodies. No big deal. My decision is I want to see the truth of them in spirit. I want to see their soul. That's where I'm going to go. Thank you. And basically, here's where everything changes for real spiritual evolution. The moment you can take your vice, your most painful thoughts, and use that as the key to remember love, remember God, remember forgiveness, remember the truth of who you are, you will explode into spiritual growth. What does that mean? It's like if every thought here, I'll give an example. I was dealing with chronic skin stuff for a long time. Horrible. 50% of my body was covered in severe eczema. It was very uncomfortable. And I was addicted to being a victim, where it's like, oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? What am I doing? I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
Huge ego trip. Huge ego trip. The moment, the moment I'm like, you know what? How about every time I feel itching, I remember God, which to me is, how about every time I feel itching, I just get present, remember that I can be still. Every time I feel itching, I will just witness it. Oh my God, these pain bodies, these vices, these negative entities, whatever it is, will just dissipate so quickly. They have no choice because the love, like it depolarizes them. It literally will depolarize something that's unloving, where it's like every time I catch myself looking at a girl's butt, I'm gonna remember God. Like that's the trigger. Well, then there's no guilt. I can look at 100 butts of the cool. That means I remember God 100 times. Thank you for this catalyst. Thank you. I'm going to use my vice, use my pain, use these crazy thoughts, use my temptation, use my urges that every time they come online, that is the cue. Remember God. Remember I am. Remember presence. Remember I have a choice. Good luck. I even do this when I'm meditating and there's a dripping faucet or there's a car honking, an alarm goes off. And it's like disrupting my meditation. How about every time it comes in my awareness, I remember the joy of my being. I remember God. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but what does that even mean? Remember God or remember being? It's like they don't have an experience whatsoever of the joy of that or what it offers. What it means is every time you're annoyed or you're triggered or you're tempted, to at least have the desire. Remember that you can choose. Remember that you can choose a different way to see this. That you can be optimistic, pessimistic, love, fear. You're in this duel. You can make the choice. You can make the choice. And as you do that, it will strengthen and strengthen and strengthen. It is a bicep curl every time you're triggered, and you can go back into just wait, I'm the witness. This is a movie on a screen. I'm the witness. Even if it's just for a second, you did the rep, and it will never leave you. Awareness will never leave you. It will always build and build and build. You are always depositing every time you make that decision to remain aware in the face of the trigger, temptation, urge, negative entity, whatever it is. And the moment you can, again, use it to inspire you, to inspire me. This is why I'm on a tangent. This is why I love working in the corporate world. As much as my mind hates it and I should be, hosting these retreats, like you said, Lois, I'm working in the corporate world. That's where I'm led. I see it as the greatest spiritual practice I have because it is so corporate and it can get so dim in there that I use it as my catalyst to remember and to forgive. Every sales call, every manager one-on-one, every coworker, every trigger. Someone told me to keep it down, stop humming in the office today because it's an office. Do I want to be victimized by it? Or do I remember, yes, the grace that you can't penetrate my being. You can't penetrate my presence. This was given to me by God. I am that I am. And thank you for showing me where I still believe you, an outside circumstance, an outside person can make me suffer because you can't. That's not the truth of who we are. So I walk into that corporate world as my greatest spiritual practice. And until I can wake up in bliss, work a full day in bliss without having anything pull me out of that center, out of that presence, my work there's not done. And so I give this deep reverence for wherever I'm at in life, wherever the universe, God has brought me, because I get to use the triggers every day to wake up deeper to the truth of who I am. And it has nothing to do with the circumstance and everything to do with my decision and how I want to see it and how I want to see it. And when I was working a corporate job that was making me miserable, I was at Salesforce, making great money, working a few hours a day, poor me. I was really miserable. I was like, I'm stuck here. This sucks. What am I going to do? And that's when I started studying the Course in Miracles. And I started practicing. Oh, I have given this all the meaning that it has. I have given this sales call all the meaning it has. I have given this manager all the meaning it has. I have given this coworker all the meaning it has. they can't touch me. And all of a sudden I came into this perfect non-resistance with my job where I was like, oh, cool. Like, might as well get promoted. Like, I'm just hanging out. I love it. I love everyone. This is actually amazing. I get to meditate in the morning and make money and eat great food and meditate at night and practice. Within 2 months, I was brought out and received a job offer of a lifetime that I could have only hoped to imagine. And there was no way for me to calculate or perceive or try to create a network that can get me out of this situation. It's the grace when we come into non-resistance with what is and come into loving relationship with everything that's in our field. And we have that choice, and may the trigger be the reminder that you have the choice every time. That's the point. That's it. The trigger, the pain, the thought, the urge, the temptation is literally just the knock. Hey, you get to choose.
I love how this has gone and that you doubled down
Heads.
on, yeah, because you're about true freedom and complete freedom, not just freedom around sex. And yeah, that stand. See, I will admit, I got a little overloaded. I've been at work since like for like 4 hours. So I went straight from one thing to another, and my cognitive capacity was like, but it was perfect because it enabled me to quiet down and tone down and turn the volume so that this could come through. Like I and my men here listening are a space for you to be grace so that they can do what there is to do to be and remember to remain present to the present of the present and receive, right? At
It.
which point you're that. You're not you don't need any of these. I mean, it's great to have all these skills, men, but the awakened identity contains the rest. And once you've awakened your identity, you've got a love that is the best, a love that never leaves, a love that transfigures and transmutes the rest. And to whatever degree you're meant to have any of this other stuff, great dates, great sex, great relationship, living your purpose, it will be much better infused with love.
Seek first the kingdom and it will all be added. Seek first the kingdom. When I was at that Tilted Kilt restaurant, I wanted the kingdom first, and I was able to get all these fantasies and gratification. I chose the kingdom. I choose the kingdom first and watch how all these things you thought you wanted will come to you like no big deal. It's
This is
amazing.
great. This is great. So I've got one last question for you. Um, Unless you want to like give us a closing salvo of cool stuff as well. That's cool. Um, how do you relate in how you and how do you date from within this perspective? It sounds like there's an exceptional sensitivity to who to choose, who can meet you inside your commitment to this level of spiritual uh, depth and richness and not everybody can handle that. Not everybody can hold that. And if we choose someone who's fast asleep at the wheel of their ego and is full of judgment and guilt and all this other stuff, there may be an experience. And I've mentioned this. I love my past partners, but I, in the past, tended to be the hero rescuing the weak, wounded bird
Yeah.
because that was what was familiar based on me being the one to save mom from dad who was beating her, at least emotionally,
Yeah.
not physically at all. But and so like I'm now maturing and grounding myself into this space of like wanting criterion for how to perceive and vet like a woman who can actually meet me in the gift that I am and then in the gift that I can give and that can flow through me to her, to we. Because the the penis is a positively charged and the vagina is a negatively charged, and then it flows out the breasts like into the male heart, and it if you look at Taoist and Neo Tantra, it becomes a circuit. And I'd rather not take on the energetic of someone who can't complete that circuit or open fully to the flowing of love through that circuitry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the question exactly?
Yeah, how do you date? How do you relate inside of this awareness?
Um, yeah. I don't really date per se. And I in one word, surrender. In two words, letting go. What I learned, I had a case of what I call soulmate-itis, which is from age. I was like, there's one out there. There is one girl, and like we're gonna meet in Disney movie, and like I'm convinced of this. And the more I wanted it, the more it pushes it away. And so I honestly, it's like I don't go out there dating. And I do witness when I look, I witness there's a part of me that wants a partner. It wants specialness. It wants special love, as the course would call it, which is that there's a part of me that still feels incomplete and it wants a special person to make me feel special so I don't have to feel that incompleteness, like a salve that kills the pain. I don't want that. And the truth is my desire is the whole mate, the whole mate or the holy relationship, which is to say that we are both coming into it from a place of such wholeness that we are just perfect mirrors of the Christ essentially. And
It's
that
a
yeah,
creation. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and that anything because we're not going to be fully enlightened, but that we get to serve as these mirrors to get closer and closer to truth, closer and closer to God. And not everyone is spiritually oriented or as committed to this work. And what I do know is the energy I'm giving off, my energetic signature, has no choice but to be mirrored back to me in the form of relationships, abundance, anything you name it. And that is where all my faith is. That's where all my faith is. And I cannot compromise and I will not compromise. I do not to try to meet someone else on that level because I just need a little specialness. When I say that I am certain I will never have sex out of a devoted container, I can mean that because the level of fulfillment I'm experiencing on my own by my own inner union is so potent, complete, and beautiful that why sacrifice it? So I
Yeah.
don't know. And I'm only 26. So it's like what to take everything with a grain of 26-year-old salt that like ooh, like when I'm 27, there might be a different tune, but this is where I'm at right now, and I don't know what relationships are going to look like going forward. And I just got out of a beautiful sacred union that I learned so much from. And it was like when you're in these containers, especially with this much spiritual devotion, you are going to see, without a doubt, the hardest things you've had to see about yourself. And it's not easy. It's not like, oh, because there's no one you can point fingers at. At a certain level of spiritual awareness, you realize I can't point fingers. I was never victimized. She never did me dirty. She wasn't responsible for my problems. I created the whole fucking thing. And I was looking into a mirror the entire time. And so it's so much more potent, that it's like I don't need to go around to like a dating site or to try to like find that. It's like it'll come right when it's meant to, when I'm prepared, when I'm ready for the next lesson in my soul's journey. Um,
Epic as fuck. This is going to be medicine for our men. Like
love
there's
it.
so many. I can think of one specifically who's going to really love listening to this. And it's going to take a week for me to let it go because I distribute my content intentionally on YouTube. But I'll maybe send them the Dropbox. So soulmate-itis. I
Yeah,
that.
just there.
It's interesting because it's the obsession with the soulmate. That from that angle, it's like special relationships.
Yeah, totally is.
That term opens something up for me, which is if you build and train towards the capacity for playing pro football, like you're going to be hungry for an opportunity to express that capacity. It's
Mhm.
going to be like itching. And so I've trained to be emotionally and energetically open to the deepest degree, to go into a full-on sacred union devoted container. And in the past 10 years, I've invited people in who didn't know that that was what they were getting because of the casual sex near the beginning, who weren't fully opted in because they just were fundamentally unavailable for it at the nervous system or spiritual growth level. Not a judgment on them, but a discernment about where they were at in their activated capacity. They have the capacity for that, and I vote their victory. But if your heart is open enough and you're sensitive enough and you choose the wrong partner, it's going to be a disruption and a distortion of your sexual energy and your field. Not because of who they are being bad and wrong, but because of where they are in consciousness relative to where you're reaching for. Not to say you're a high and mighty enlightened being. I still think you're fucking wise for 26, for sure. Specifically you. But that if you take one step on the path, what is it? Don't just dip your toe in the water because you got to be ready to swim. Like you got to be ready to go all the way in. If you start on this path, as you were saying, you're going to see things about yourself, and the more you purify, the more you're going to walk around. I think as St. Paul would call it, in Christ, like embodied as this energetic. And you got to be careful where you point those things. So that's what I got. And any last words for this? Anything else you want to let our people know?
I feel very complete and I feel inspired and I trust that who's meant to hear it will. And the only reminder is we have a choice. You have a choice. The last of the human freedoms is the choice and how I'm going to perceive what's happening. And you got all the power in heaven that is ready to grace you the moment you start choosing love over fear. You choose love over temptation, whatever it is, and to never make yourself wrong, to never make yourself guilty, because that perpetrates everything. You are not guilty. You are not guilty. You are not guilty. That is a trap to keep you in the cycle of the guilt. It feeds itself. Forgive,
Mm.
forgive. And as you forgive others, you can forgive your way to heaven through the forgiveness of others because there is not a difference between forgiving someone else and forgiving yourself. And when I say forgive, it means refusing to suffer for somebody else's actions.
Mhm.
And it is realizing that this person's the energy that animates their body. The Christ energy is the same energy that animates your body as everybody else's. And I can choose to overlook the humanness, the perceived error on the human level and realize they are just a product of their conditioning, their programs, their karma. What is the truth of them? And we can start to see. And when we start to see, well, we'll just be more happy. So that's that. That's that, Lewis. That's all I got. I can always keep rapping. You're so fun. You're so fun to talk with,
You're
and I
so
love.
fun. This is meant to happen. This was the crux. This was the
Yeah, seriously.
this is where we were leading towards in all of our conversations. It's so great.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you for being here. Thank you for the gift of your presence, your attention, your mastery, your competence, your confidence, your clarity, your wisdom, your intuition, which I've witnessed palpable, visceral, powerful. And it was just insane because we were sitting across from each other and you were like, it feels like it was basically like I'm feeling a disturbance in the force in the shape of my ex-girlfriend, and I think she's over there in that car. And it was basically like that. And then we find out it's true. Like it was just right there. And it's just amazing. I mean, I think it was partially you saw a bag, right? It looked like her bag or
There's
something.
a context clue for
There's a
sure.
context clue. Okay.
Yeah.
But the
That's,
overwhelming feeling that accompanied that clue for you was just so it's just like I'm honored and delighted to be to call you friend, sir, to have you collaborating with me. And yeah, where do people find more of you if they want more of you? Because inevitably they will after this. I mean,
yeah, that's a great question. Eric, ERIC, Eric J. Petro on Instagram, and Eric Petro on YouTube, and Eric Petro on Spotify. Where I'm just in the infancy of launching, so to speak, my voice, my truth, because I am so inspired to be able to share my direct experiences, my love, my path with anybody else that might resonate with it. And so we're out here just getting started, but I would literally love to connect with anybody, everybody, whoever's interested in this. There's nothing that excites me more. It gives me energy. So please reach out. We can jam, we can talk. Here to support, here to make love. And that's it. Yeah. Eric J. Petro.
here to
Thank
make love easy, y'all. So thank you for your graceful contribution to that process for our men. And yeah, feel free to comment below, y'all. I want to hear what you think about all this. Like, share, subscribe, all the things for more like this. And yeah, just thanks for listening.
you. Yeah.